Okay, so what I want to do today is show you how to use TeX and Mathematica. These are two of the more popular systems used to do a lot of mathematics right now. TeX is basically to allow you to create documents that look nice. So for instance, this document here is the compiled version. And so if you want to start writing text with mathematical equations, if you've ever used Microsoft Word, you've probably used a couple of four-letter words. Microsoft Word is not good for importing and inserting equations. TeX is very seamless, and it takes about 20 to 30 minutes to learn 95% of what you need for TeX. So over here I have a copy of a TeX file, and most of it you'll never have to change. There's a bunch of just formatting stuff in the beginning. Which packages should you use? How do you want to set your margins? What kind of document class it is? You can just keep all the stuff for now, and then as you become more and more of an expert, you can start modifying it based on what you need. And so the other thing which is very nice is you can create your own shortcut commands. I am extremely lazy. I hate having to type out long descriptions of commands. So TeX, you can create shortcuts. So eventually we're going to use something called begin equation. I've now nicknamed it /BE for begin equation. It's much faster for me to type. If you just look at the actual document, it looks like a combination between a programming environment and a Word file. So the TeX document itself is just a text file, and then you have some kind of system that uses it, that creates the DVI, the PostScript, the PDF. I'm using WinEDT. I think Technic Center is one of the popular ones on campus. There's various things you can use. And so a lot of this is going to be extremely reasonable. The people who did this thought very carefully about what they want their commands to be. To start the title, /title. To list an author, /author. To list the date, /date. So again, a lot of the commands are what you would expect. Then if you want the abstract, it's /begin and then curly braces abstract, /end abstract. Everything in through here is the abstract. I'm a science fiction fan, as you'll probably tell from some of the examples in the text. What I want for my template file here is all the text you see here is describing what you're seeing. So I've chosen to have it show the table of contents. The command for that is /table of contents. Alright, so /section starts the first section. /subsection would be the subsection in the first section. What would the subsection be?
/subsection.
Exactly. They thought very carefully and long and hard about this. Okay. So the beginning paragraph is just a brief description of what TeX is. The reason this is so useful is how easily you can use math. So to enter math mode, you use a $sign. To exit math mode, you use a $sign. Everything in between is in math mode. So /alpha gives you the Greek alpha, /G gamma gives you the capital Greek gamma. And so if you look over here, you can see here's alpha to the gamma 3 plus beta sub gamma to the 1, 2. If I delete the curly braces around the beta 1, 2 and I recompile it, which hopefully won't take too long, what you'll notice now is this doesn't look right. This is beta to the first times 2 sub gamma, and I wanted beta to the 12th. And so when you have a superscript, which is a caret, or a subscript, which is an underscore, it only puts one thing in the superscript or underscore, unless you put it in braces. So the braces is your default way to say, treat this whole section as one object. Okay, and so now the Greek alphabet is exactly what you would expect. If you want to do less than or equal to, the command is just /LE for less than equal to. So just /LE. Greater than or equal to /GE. Not an element is /not in. So you can easily write A is in A, which is a subset of B. C is not in B. Eventually you learn to read in TeX. And so I can actually, I've done this so many times, I can say, okay, some product integral, those ones aren't so bad. And so if you just look down here to see how it looks, you would get C is not an element of B. If you want to do square roots and stuff like that, the commands are fairly similar. So where's the square root? So it's /square root. We'll put whatever you want in square root. So /square root and then curly braces 4x plus 1. If you want an arrow over something, you have /over right arrow v. Nobody wants to write over right arrow. So in the homework template that I have, I use /arr, which is one of my user-defined commands that I've done for Math 105. So I don't have to write over right arrow every single time. I use slash FOH for fraction 1/2 because I use 1/2 so many times. To do a fraction here, and you can also do your searches. So to do fractions, it's backslash frac numerator denominator. So here slash frac 1234 would be 12/34. There are many different environments you can use, depending on how you want to display things. For the most part, you'll just have everything in the same environment. But if you want to display a web equation, this is how you would do it. This gives you some sense of how old these templates are. Should really change the address. The next thing is one-line equations. So begin equation, end equation, and then everything in here is going to be an equation, and this is going to default to be numbered. And so, oops, I forgot. There was one other thing I forgot, which is a very common tech mistake. So many standard functions. You don't think you need to see whatever this was. That's just probability. Okay. Many standard functions have shortcuts to make them display properly. So when you're in math mode, any text you write in math mode is automatically italicized. You don't want the cosine function or the log function italicized. All your friends will make fun of you. It just won't look nice. So we have the shortcut slash cosine, slash sine, slash tangent, slash log, slash exp for exponential. So you can see the difference between writing it with and without. And as you can clearly agree, this just doesn't look right. That just looks wrong. Whereas if you put the slashes in, it displays it properly. Okay, let's do equations. So the default is to number equations. People have different preferences as to whether or not you want equations numbered or not numbered. I like to have all equations numbered in papers that I'm writing because you never know when you're going to need to refer to something or when somebody who's reading your paper is going to need to refer to that. So the way you do equations is the following. So slash begin slash end does the equation, and then you put the math mode. So I have lambda prime over lambda of s is equal to s plus epsilon, the integral from a to b of 3x squared e to the 2 pi I x dx. Something I have absolutely no care about, but it's some equation. And again, I don't like having to type begin equation, so I've created the shortcut command slash be slash ee. If you'll notice, there is one major difference between these two. In here, it's put what's in math mode in kind of a gray box. So when you're looking at your document, you can quickly see that this is an equation. Whereas here, it doesn't really know what to do with BE and EE until you compile. And so just in terms of visually queuing things on, it's a little bit better. You'll notice different things are showing up in different colors, which does help you parse things. The other thing which you'll notice is I left a blank line between the paragraph, and then over here when I look at the compiled version, because I left a blank line, it starts the next thing as a new paragraph. And so if you don't want that to happen, what you have to do is you just have to make sure you don't leave that blank space. Otherwise it just automatically starts a new paragraph. Tech is very forgiving about spaces. If you have multiple spaces, it treats them all as one space. So spacing does not really matter. If you want to force spaces in something, you do slash like this, and that will put extra spaces around the equal sign. Okay. Now the other thing is, so in this equation over here, this should hopefully look a little bit off. The parentheses aren't quite big enough. So one thing which is really nice that tech can do is it can do dynamic parenthesis sizing. So if you want to avoid the dynamic, you can use commands like slash big to just make a big parenthesis. If that's not big enough, you can just slash big with 2 G's. And if that's not big enough, no, we have 1G, 2G, probably 3G. I haven't tried it in a long time as to whether or not 3Gs work. You can also use slash left, which is a much better way to do it. And what the slash left will do is it will have it whatever size is needed to match up with with the text. And then you end it with a slash right parenthesis. And so when you do that, it now automatically spaces it the right way. Is the camera still recording? Okay, there's something else. Okay, so now labeling equations. You're going to want to refer to equations all the time. To me, and I've gotten a little bit better over the years, you want to adopt a consistent way of labeling sections, equations, references for the rest of your life. So that it's easy to figure out what's what. What I've now started to do is, for sections, I started to label section with a colon. So I know this is a section label. I can search for things very quickly like that. EQ would be an equation label for me. And nowadays I always put the colons in, but I was young back then. And you have some kind of text that tells you what the equation is. And so this equation has been named equation lambda prime lambda. And so now when I'm writing text, if I want to refer to it, all I have to do is just do /ref equation label. Or I could do /eqref. So the difference between ref and eqref is that eqref puts things in parentheses, whereas ref does not. So it's equation 1.6 versus 1.6 in parentheses. If you want the parentheses, just do eqref. And so here's an equation we have. I labeled equation gf1. We can refer to this by saying eqref eqgf1 of /s for section /ref. And so you can refer to things very quickly. Any questions on what we have so far? So most of the time you're going to be writing in normal text. You use $ to enter math mode inside a paragraph. And then you use like begin equation, end equation, or /be/e if you actually want to have an equation as a line, not inside the paragraph. The next thing is multiline equations. As you go further and further, you'll have longer and longer equations. So here's a two-line equation. The standard I like is to have the equation number at the very end, at the second line on the right. There are other people who put them in different places. Those people are wrong. There is a mistake here and here. It's a very small mistake, but I'm embarrassed about it now. I did not end the sentence with a period. Right? This is disgraceful. My English teachers would be ashamed of me. Even if you, and this is one of the most common mistakes people make, you need to punctuate sentences. An equation is part of a sentence. They normally don't teach you this in 7th and 8th grade, as to what do you do if you end a sentence with an integral. But I do believe you should still end it with a period or something. So I'll put periods at the ends of these right now. Okay, and so now I'm using the begin equation array environment, so EQN array. And then what's nice about this is you have 2 ampersands. And what it does is it gives you a multi-line equation, and it centers things based on what's between the 2 ampersands. So this will be centered along this. Now, most of the time you will never see something like this in a textbook. You'll never repeat the same thing on both lines if it's the exact same thing. You'll see more something like this where you only have it once. So in this one over here, notice that we have nothing before this ampersand sign. We're not repeating it. We still want this centered among this. If I don't want a line to be numbered, I just use the /no number. And then I have to use a cabbage return to tell it to do another line. So if you look at it right now, this is how it looks, only this is numbered. If I want to have both of them numbered, I can remove the /no number, recompile it, and put in the period for later. And now both of these are numbered. And normally you would not want to number both equations within a multi-line environment. You're doing, say, completing the squares to prove the quadratic formula. You wouldn't want to have each single step get its own equation number. So we'll restore the no number. The other thing which is worth mentioning is different systems have different features. What I like about the YAP template DVI viewer is I can double-click on my document, and it gives me an inverse search. It takes me directly to the part of the tech code that I want to modify. If you have a long document, it's sometimes not easy. If I didn't have inverse search, I could say, in the above, I have used a user command. So I come over here and just search for used a, and if you just do a keyword search, you can find the right part of the document without too much trouble. Okay, and then here's a lengthier example of how you would do a multi-line equation. Here I don't have the parentheses sized right. I'm using a new function li of x, which is a famous function in mathematics, but because I wrote it, it's just worth seeing how I wrote it. So because I wrote it like this, it italicizes the li, which it should not. And so going over here, I want to have the li not italicized. And so the way you do that is you do curly braces /rm li, and then curly braces. So this is for remove emphasis. And again, if you happen to leave an emphasis in, if you happen to forget the slash in front of the cosine, world does not end. This is just minor little things to make the document look a little bit nicer. It's not the big things to worry about. There's other ways to do it. You can also use a line rather than equation array. I happen to like equation array. Other people are wrong and they like a line. Right. Eventually, as you progress, you will eventually start proving things like lemmas, propositions, theorems, and corollaries. And you'll find the subtle shades of differences between a lemma and a proposition. So I've created an environment for lemmas / begin lem / end lem. Begin prop, end prop for proposition. Begin proof, end proof. Begin proof and end proof is usually fairly common. What I like about that is it ends with a little square box so that the reader knows the proof has ended if you use the begin proof, end proof. If you don't, you can actually do it on your own by saying, let's see, where is it? Say no indent, for emphasize proof. Here we do it without using the proof environment. So what I'll do is I'll just copy this and now do hfill box. And so now it basically simulates exactly what we saw, but it's faster to use the shortcut command. And then I put a box here, and the hfill puts it all the way at the bottom. And so what I'll do is I'll just remove this now. The other thing is you can use big skip to skip a line and just format things a little bit. There's the other ways too, but big skip is a pretty good way. Okay, so over here it looks like there's a little bit of an extra line. No, maybe not. Okay. Now the next thing is you can actually give names to lemmas and theorems. And if you look here, I'll let you decide. So you get to vote. Which do you like better? How it is displayed in 1.4 or 1.5? With the italics or without the italics? Complete personal preference.
Without?
I think without looks better. And so if you go over here, so one is, let's see, it's better to put the name first than the label. So what I want to do is I want to label the theorem. And so over here, I put the label first, and then I have in square brackets the name of the theorem. And so what happens is when I do this, as soon as I put in the label, it's already labeled the theorem and it stopped this. Whereas if I do it the other way, it first keeps this unitalicized as the name of the theorem. So you can label theorems so that you can refer to them as well. Corollaries, remarks, sections, subsections, subsections. If you want a new page, /new page. Okay, exactly what you would guess. If you want to do tables, here's an example of how you would do a table. A lot of environments have insert, table, and you can actually just insert a table and tell how many rows and columns. There's an example here that goes through and shows you how to do this. Okay, and then begin center, this is how you would do a caption for a table, how you would label a table. So again, once you have a template file in front of you, you can modify it without too much trouble. Okay, matrices and shortcuts. This is something that could be a little bit useful. Because we want to get past here, here's the table. So, if we want to do matrices or determinants, here's how you would type a 6x6 matrix. So /left for the left matrix, /right for the right matrix. It's centering things along this. The C stands for center. If I want things right justified or left justified, I'd use the letters R versus L. And so if you're doing 2x2 or 3x3 matrices, I deal with them so frequently, I don't want to have to go through this whole messy environment with the left and the right and the arrays. I've created a shortcut command called mat2 for a 2-dimensional matrix and mat3 for 3-dimensional. And so mat2 takes 4 arguments. So what we're going to do is go to how you would define a command. So new command mat2, and then in square brackets here it says this takes 4 arguments. #1 means this is the first argument, #2 second, #3 third, #4 fourth. And so now I can just enter my matrix like this without any trouble. And if I want to do determinants, I've created a shortcut command for the 2x2 determinant /det2. And so when I look at this, it's going to display the determinants very nicely like that. If I want to do split equations like 2 case, if p is a prime power or otherwise, or 3 cases, you have the commands to do this. I've actually just made shortcut commands for them so I don't have to type them all again every single time. And then again, here's just different ways to avoid the italics issues. One thing you have to be careful about is sometimes some of them don't actually leave that extra space and you have to manually insert the space. I think the easiest one is the /rm for remove. Sometimes people use mbox or text. Text, you have to remember, I think, to manually enter the space. And so, mbox and text. There should have been a third one. Oh, here's the one we removed. Okay. Any questions on this up to now? Yes?
What if I want to insert a $sign?
I'm sorry?
What if I want to insert a $sign?
I was just about to do that as an example because I realized I had forgotten to do that. And so I had just realized I had forgotten that. Outstanding question. So some of you might actually do things in economics and you might actually want a $sign. Yeah. And so to actually get a $sign, what you need to do is $$ for $sign. Okay. Percent gives you the comments. So whatever follows a percent, you don't see. /pound would give you a pound sign, /n would give you an ampersand sign. So if you want to use these as an actual character and not as a command, use the / to override. But yes, I had just realized I had forgotten that. I'm just going to shift back. So the next one is, okay, so we've done equations. Now there's a couple of different environments you might need to use. And so we've talked a little bit about the shortcut environments, my /be and stuff like that. The next thing is if you want to have enumerated lists. So begin enumerate, end enumerate, and then /item for each item, /subitem. If you want to put a bullet, you can do $bullet or $diamond. And so if you do enumerate, it does things with 1, 2, 3 like this. You could also do itemize, and if you do itemize, it doesn't do things by numbering them, it just does them with a bullet point. And so these are the different types of environments you can do. If you want to insert graphics, it's not so bad. The easiest one to use is encapsulated postscripts. So when you download the template file, you have to remember to download the file yl.eps. This was for a paper that one of my colleagues and his friend were working on, and I did some tech help for him, and found out he was the largest individual stockholder in Amazon.com, which was very nice because he was then very generous in giving me some books. So I always am happy to use his image for stuff like this. So begin center, end center. This is such a nice image. It's a shame to have it this small. Let's make it larger. Let's make it 95. And so now if I recompile it, this will now change the size of the image. Eventually. Isn't that a beautiful? So again, you can control the size of image without too much trouble. You can, if you're using Mathematica, which we'll do later, you can actually save the Mathematica stuff that you get as EPS files, and then immediately send it to your tech document, which is very nice. Okay, that's a great image now. Okay, if you want to do things in color, you can actually have things in color as well. Do you remember your RGB color codes? If not, you play around with it a little bit and figure out, okay, let's try 1000100001, and then try to do the shades. Or you just go online and try to figure out, what it is. Most of the time, you're not going to be printing things in color, but if you want to have fun, by all means have fun. Okay, centering text, everything you want, between begin center and end center will be centered. The other thing is different font sizes. Okay? So there's huge, there's large, all in capitals, there's large with a capital L, normal size, there's tiny, and the normal size brings us back to normal size. So again, the commands are what you would expect. You can also go to the beginning of the document, and right now I'm doing 12-point font. You could change that to 10, if you have too much, or if you don't have enough, you can bump it up to 14. You can play games with margins, depending on who you're working with. Okay. Document class, over here are some commands, and probably the most interesting part about this is just the verbatim command, to just have this display and have tech not try to format this. So verbatim is very useful. If you want to take some C code, R code, Mathematica code, and just shove it into the document, this is a great way to do it. And so this is just a little bit stuff on different documents, classes. Some of you, if you're writing things in like economics journals, might want you to have blanks between, blank lines between lines. And so you can do things like baseline stretch to play games like that. Further reading, there's a bunch of resources on the web, an acknowledgement section. The star here is so that it's not a numbered section. You can do things, lots of different ways. If you want to start your appendix, it's /appendix. Anybody recognize what the psychohistorical dynamics of the Seychelles Republic is? The rise and the fall of the mule? Foundation Trilogy. So if you want to do sections and appendix, it's exactly the same. They'll now be labeled A, B, C. And then the next thing is just the bibliography. So begin bibliography and bibliography. I like to put a big skip at the end just so that it has a little extra space before it displays my name and everything. Oops. So when you look at this, the first thing you want to know is, why do I have 9,999? What I'm telling you is, basically, I want to make sure I leave enough blank space to display the number 9999. That's telling me how much space to leave over here. So typically you do just a little bit longer than the largest entry. I always make these two things the same. One is the shortcut, one is how it displays. I like to use authors' names, just because this way I can quickly look at something. If I were to delete this, I think it then goes, and right now it's showing the name KH. If I do it this way, I think it's going to now just number that 1. And so some journals want you to label references 1, 2, 3, 4. I like to have author names because to me, I can then quickly glance and see, oh, okay, KH, that's probably Kinchin. And so when I'm reading a paper, I can quickly see again and again, oh, you referred to Keating Snape, I know which paper that is. If I say 15, what's reference 15? I was last reading this a week ago. Sometimes journals will let you do this, sometimes they won't. You don't necessarily need the new block. Author's name, /emph puts things in emphasis. Title is Multiplicative Number Theory, 2nd edition, Grab Your Text in Mathematics. /text boldface puts this in boldface, number 74. These are two great books. This is a great paper by my advisor in one of his postdocs. And so this is just how it would display. So again, the TeX file here is for the most part telling you exactly what you're seeing. So if you want to figure out what the things are, you read the document and then look at the TeX code, and that should help. So this is TeX in basically 30 minutes. This is at least 95% of what you need. You'll have some very complicated, maybe snake lemmas with arrows going all over the place. For the most part, you don't really need that. Let's add just a few more things just for Math 105. So let's go up to New Commands, and let's add a new command. So let's add a new command /arrow, and we'll do this as overwrite arrow, and then I'm going to have #1. It's going to have 1 input. So I have to put a 1 here. So I've now created a shortcut command for arrow. So I'll come over here for multivariable calculus. We could write, actually, I have some shortcut commands here that I can quickly just use for the vector v, or we could use our shortcut command arrow v. If we want cross product, we could write, so this would be v, and then times would give us the nice times arrow w. And so, it's not that bad to put things in here. And so, and now we see. In fact, there's one more that's actually useful for what we're doing in 105. So let me do /avec. So this was another command that I've just created recently for Math 105. So I'll put it right here. If we want a specific vector, we can do avec 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so what avec does automatically is it's going to put the left angle and the right angle that we want, and then it takes one input. So you just put all the components in separated by commas, and it treats that whole thing as one block. And so the point is now, as much as I love spending time writing up solution keys to the Math 105 homework, I want to at least write them up as fast as I can. And so the more shortcut keys I have, the easier it is. I don't want to have to do slash left angle parentheses every single time. Okay, any questions on tech? Yes?
Where do you get the program?
So there's various places, if you go to OIT's homepage or various places on the web, you can just download tech. And so if we go to, let's try OIT. Oh, good, it's not moving in the right direction. OIT.williams.edu. So you can see which websites I like if you pause it. Okay, so if we do download software, so if we now just use search for tech, so there's MicTech, which is one of the things you can often use. It should be like a Technic Center, Tech Shop, Technic Center. These are two good ones. This one is for the PC, this one is for the Apple. I like WinADT a lot. It costs, I think, $40 to use. I'm now in my probably second decade of using it. So, $40 over 2 decades is not that bad. Any other questions about tech? Okay.